You do not want your social media to grow fast. I know that you think you do. I know that you want immediate results, that you can start earning money sooner rather than later. But trust me, if you blow up overnight, you can typically fall just as fast. And we've seen this time and time again. We are able to look at history now because being an influencer, while I throw up in my mouth, has been a job for nearly 20 years, realistically going further back than that, just through a variety of different ways. But if we're talking solely about like making videos on the internet, being monetized from that and making a living because of that, people that blow up incredibly quickly usually fall off just as quick. The people that are able to put in the slow, steady, consistent work, growing just small chunks at a time over time, that then snowballs into larger amounts given a time frame, they're typically the ones that succeed long term. Let me give you a few scenarios here and talk about this. But a good 40% of the people that watch these videos are not already subscribed, so if you could fix that, that'd be cool. This is the Cayle Grows account, not my normal one. Let me tell you the story, because I enjoy telling a story, you guys know this by now, about the first time that I ever had a viral video when I was making social media. So, first of all, I started making TikToks back in 2020. At the time, it was a lot newer. Most people were not doing talky videos. It was just a dancing app. It was in those few years after that it became like something that businesses started to take seriously, where people could actually grow and monetize a following, where people could speak to the camera and build a personal brand based upon that. And I was probably doing this. I was probably doing this while working at Tesco for a solid 6 months before I was earning enough from TikTok that I could quit working at Tesco. And I remember at one point I was talking about fat loss, because at the time it was lockdown, we couldn't leave the house. So despite the fact that I was a personal trainer and I would have loved to have been talking about going to the gym and things like that, going to the gym wasn't exactly something that I could talk about or demonstrate because of the fact that the gyms were not open. So primarily I spoke about fat loss. And I remember at one point I made a video about how realistically wanting a fully developed, visible six-pack year-round as a woman is probably not going to be the most attainable goal in the world. Nor is it something that people should aspire to get because of the downsides that often come through achieving said outcome. For example, I'll summarize this dead quick because this is not what this video is about. But again, I'm a qualified personal trainer. This is what I did as a job prior to stuff. It is easier for men to have a visible six-pack than it is for women to have a visible six-pack. And I'm not just talking about a few lines here and there or under the right lighting or if you're flexing just well enough. I'm talking about walking around, no matter the lighting, visible. God damn, that's a six-pack. That sort of thing. And it's because of something called essential body fat. Women have a higher essential amount of body fat than men do because they have got more complex processes that body fat has to support that we do not. That is biology. And often to achieve said six-pack as a woman, it is very common that through that restrictive period of undereating or excessive amounts of cardio, they will lose their cycle and end up building a ton of unhealthy habits just to have that six-pack in the mirror. For your average person that's just going to the gym that wants to feel better about themselves, which is typically the reason why people start going to the gym, it's just an unreasonable thing to want to have. And I made a video about that. And my normal views at the time were like 500. And I remember I'd get like 10 likes a video, and I was dead happy with that. This video, in the space of a day, had like 750,000 views. And the perception from this video, the reception of this video, was overwhelmingly positive. That happens very infrequently. Pretty commonly, if you have a video that blows up, a lot of the comments will be very negative. There were a lot of negative comments because there always will be, but like overwhelmingly positive response to this video. And it resulted in me growing from like a few hundred followers to like well over 20,000 in the space of like an hour. I distinctly remember that I was stood on SelfScan at like 9 p.m. with my colleague, and we were on my phone and we would refresh, and every time we'd refresh there'd be another 200 followers. It was insane. But the problem with this is it's incredibly addictive and very short-lived. Consider it like a high that you're then forever trying to chase and isn't likely to continue to be a replicatable thing. Now, here's why this wasn't necessarily a brilliant thing for an account of my size at that time. Because, remember, when you post a video, your average normal video, expecting it to perform in an average normal way, you want that video to be shown to the sorts of people that are going to, on average, engage with it well. Yeah, which is the people who already watch you and the people who are targeted in your mind when you made it. Okay? The problem is that if you 10x your following overnight through one video on one specific topic, you then open yourself to being able to grow an audience that you didn't want, or an audience that isn't necessarily your target audience. So for example, At the time, I really wanted to talk about gym stuff, but I was stuck talking about fat loss stuff because of the fact that the gyms were shut. Now, I remember at the time, for like 5 months because of this video, my audience was primarily like 40 to 50-year-old women, which was great in terms of like my fat loss content, because that is applicable to them typically more so than the gym stuff is. Because it's more common now, but like if I want to talk about building muscle, that will usually attract a male audience. If I talk about losing fat, that will typically attract a older female audience. Those were just the niches back then. But what this meant is that anytime I made a video that was specifically about building muscle, it would underperform because it would be initially shown to people that were just less bothered about it. And remember, on all of these platforms, the way that videos work is you post a video, and whether or not it performs well is determined by how well the people who initially see it react to it. If they watch a decent amount of time, if they engage with it well, then it will perform decently. If they don't, then it won't. So if over 90% of the total followers you have are not interested in the kind of content that you want to make because you blew up over one video rather than slow and steady growth over time, now you're in a little bit of trouble and have to dig yourself out of that hole a little bit. And that's why huge growth isn't always potentially the most helpful thing in the world. And psychologically, this can do a number on you as well because of the fact that imagine you post a video like that and it blows right up. And typically what will happen is if you have one video go viral like this, the videos either side of it for a little while will also go well above what your normal will look like. This video, if it ended up after a week with 1 million views, the videos that preceded it will also have like 5 times their normal views. Not quite the million, but like a massive percentage of the people that watch that video will click your profile and go look at what else you're posting. So you also gain a boost in views elsewhere. But again, then you are forever chasing that high of trying to make that happen again, and you post a video and it underperforms, and now you are disheartened. And in those early days of social media content creation where you're not making any money, because here's the thing is, again, don't expect to earn money very quickly when you start doing this, due to the fact that you are probably going to have to grind for a very long time until you're in a position where it's going to be paying you. And half of that battle, and it's very disheartening, and why it took me so long to get anywhere on YouTube, is the fact that often it feels like you're shouting into the clouds. If you're posting and getting barely any views, it usually means that you're also getting barely any engagement, barely any comments, and it's like you're talking at no one. Like right now, realistically, what I'm doing is I'm talking to a camera. There's no one in front of me. But I know that some people will see this video. So in my head, it's psychologically justified because I'm not talking to myself really. Whereas when you are just starting on social media and you're posting your content, barely anyone's going to see it. Barely anyone's going to comment. And it can almost just feel like you're posting for the sake of posting, knowing full well that you're not talking to anyone and no one's going to reply back. And it can be very lonely and isolating. And I think it's a reason why a lot of people quit, because they're not getting where they wanted to be. And that is, again, why people, this is the weird little cycle that we get into, because then people want to grow really, really fast so that they then get that engagement. And it's this constant feedback loop. I am, in all honesty, consistently addicted to this feedback loop. I love filming videos. I spend all day filming videos for all of my various different accounts. As soon as I'm done with this one, I'm going to go film a video for a different account. And I love posting, and I love seeing the comments and engaging with them, and then using those comments to generate more content, rinse, repeat. That is the life that I live. But when you're in your early days, you can't do that as much because there isn't the content to reply to and talk to and engage with. We can use this example in tons of different things. For example, if I was to offer you £10,000 right now or £100 a day forever, which are you choosing? I think genuinely a lot of people would say the £10,000 thing, even though when you actually think about it rationally and logically, that is a silly thing to choose, because of the fact that, yeah, £10,000 could probably improve your life dramatically right now today. But if I give you £100 a day forever, you can set yourself up for life with that if you're smart. It could take a while, but people are impatient and people don't want to do that. And that applies to views, and that applies to followers and comments and engagement as well. You don't want... So for example, it happened with this account. Right now, it's happening to me on this account. My first video has like 3,000 views or something like that. Well, like my second video. One of my videos blew up relative to the rest of them. So now I have to psychologically reaffirm with myself every single time that that is an outlier, and I should not expect the anomaly to be the reproductive thing that happens every time. It happened on my main account the other day where last month I did a video where I went through the entirety of my PlayStation 2 collection and valued them according to what CX would give me cash versus what they would give me versus what they would sell them. That video has done 100,000 views. I know better than to expect 100,000 views on every video just because one hit that. And it's harder to accept that when it's a brand new account and you get like 3,000 views on one video and then they drop to like 200 views after a day or two. It's just a case of you have to understand what is normal for your account and try to psychologically detach from that. Don't attach your value to things like this, because you'll get disheartened and you'll quit. And that is what I'm trying to discourage people from doing. Is relentless consistency long term is how you will succeed here. You don't want 20,000 subscribers today. You want 100 subscribers every day for the next 2 years. You might end up at the same number, but I promise you, you'll have generated more views with the slower growth. You'll have generated more money with the slower growth. You'll have generated more headspace and more peace with the slower growth. I've seen it in sort of slightly extended scenarios too. Sometimes people are able to blow up in the short term, right? It's not just one viral video once. It's not just a one-off like sometimes it is. They manage to have like every video absolutely blow up and bang, and they do that for a while. But it's still just such insane views that eventually people don't care anymore. It happens, right? The way that you can tell that this is going to happen is if their view count is inversely correlated with their subscriber count. If you go on somebody's account, right, and they've got hundreds and hundreds of thousands of views per video, but they're struggling to grow their follower count and it's not keeping up, that is usually a sign that that growth might be short-lived. A realistic outcome when it comes to a viewer's life cycle, when it comes to a content creator, is not every viewer is always going to enjoy the content creators they watch for an equal amount of time, and it is unlikely that they will enjoy their content forever. How many times have you stumbled across somebody that you used to watch and gone, oh yeah, I used to watch them, but you accidentally stopped watching them? Often the natural life cycle goes as such. You discover somebody, you're like, I love this person. You binge their content initially. Then you keep up with their steady releases for some amount of time. And then eventually it tapers off and maybe you don't watch every single one of them, but you watch some of them. And eventually maybe because of your lack of interaction with them, the algorithm stops feeding you their content at all. That is a pretty natural sort of thing. And as a content creator, it's our job to keep more people coming into that funnel than there are people leaving the other end so that we can net positive grow over time. And again, if we talk about that funnel, it is a lot easier to keep more people coming in than leaving with slower, steadier, more consistent average growth than it is a massive, massive boom. Even if it's a massive boom for 6 months. 6 months in the grand scheme of a career, which again is what we're trying to create here. We're trying to create stability through our social media stuff, which is hard to do. We don't want short-term success. You're trying to connect with people. This is something that I also try to help people with when it comes to growing their stuff, is remember that every single viewer you have is a human being on the other end with thoughts, feelings, emotions, things that they hate and dislike and love and that they connect with. The more you can connect with the person that is on the other side of the camera without ever actually meeting them, the better it's going to do for your channel. It's why I'm so brutally honest about just about everything, whether it be my upbringing, the childhood, amounts of money and things like that. It's because someone will relate, someone will appreciate it, somebody will emotionally connect. You have got to put yourself across in your content. It's okay to be vulnerable and tell these stories and be yourself. Be unapologetically you, because if you're only ever talking about like whatever topic is at hand, I promise you there are a million other people talking about that topic. The reason the viewer chooses to watch you over the million other people is because they like you as a person more. You want to contribute that sort of personality to every video you make so that over time you can slowly but steadily keep compounding that audience. So in those earlier stages where it feels like you're shouting at the clouds and into the wind and there's no one engaging with you because you're only getting some amount of views, especially on TikTok, people say, I'm in 200 view jail all the time. Imagine, just picture this, right? Imagine you had 200 people stood in front of you right now listening to what you had to say. It is very rare in life that has ever happened. I can think of once that in person I've had 200 people in front of me listening to what I had to say. Once. And that's because I'm in a bit of a unique situation. I would say your average person might go their entire life without ever having that happen. 200 people is a ton of people. It might not be very many views on a video, but it is a ton of human people. Your job when you create a video is to try to convince those 200 people to buy into you in terms of liking you enough to follow and watch your content and things like that. If you are over time consistently not able to get above that 200, it means that your videos that those 200 people see, they're not engaging well enough with them. There's something about the way that you're coming across in the video, there's something about the content that you're creating, there's something about the story that you're telling, because every video is a story, that's just not creating that engagement enough for the videos to be shown to more than 200 people. The way I see it is, for example, on TikTok, say you get 200 views, you might get 20 likes, 10%, yeah? If you look at your 20 likes on any given video with 200 views, I promise you, at least half of those likes don't actually follow you on that. They just don't. They saw your video, the algorithm presented you, gave you a chance to convert that person. They liked it, but they didn't click follow. Now, that means they will probably see another video, because that's the way the algorithms work. What I want you to do is every video you make, your job is to convince that person who liked your video but doesn't already follow you to click the follow button, because they're only a small prod away from doing it at any given time. They are very close. They've already put a deposit in your emotional bank account. It's a little bit more to get them all the way there. So on your video where you think it's a flop because you got 200 views and 20 likes, 10 of those people don't already follow you. If you could convince those 10 people to follow you in that video, that results in 10 new followers. 10 new followers a video is slow and steady growth. It is good. It's successful. If you make on TikTok 3 videos a day, and that happens 3 times a day, that's 30 followers a day. 30 followers a day over the course of a month is 900 followers. I promise you that if you keep doing this, because of just the effect of compounding, very shortly, your minimum views won't be 200 anymore, it'll be 400. And now your minimum likes won't be 20, it'll be 40. And instead of 10 people that like it but don't follow you, it'll be 20. And now you could be potentially getting 20 new followers per video. You see what I mean? About how this effect keeps going. And if you never stop treating like this effort to gamify it and look at the numbers and try and slowly but steadily gain rather than rapidly trying to blow up overnight, you can succeed and bring yourself some peace that way. I hope that this makes sense, and I hope this helps. So to reiterate the point from the start of the video, if you haven't already, do subscribe, like the video. Drop me a comment so I'm not shouting into the wind. If you've got any questions, I'm going to start doing Q&A style videos on this account too, just like I do on my main account, once I've got enough questions that the ball keeps rolling. So yeah, let's go.